Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Today is a very special day, and there's a great chance that if you're watching this, you're probably new here, but at the very least, you're getting very new content from me. It's the MLB opening day today. Daily Fantasy Sports, Daily Fantasy Baseball is back. It is alive and well. Spring training is over. We are officially starting. We had that little Ichiro 2-game split last week. Sent him off very nice, but now we have the actual season. Full slates today, 2 slates, a big all-day slate, 14-game slate. I'm here to break it down for you. I'm here to give you extreme value for daily fantasy sports, something that I don't think that is out there in a lot of other platforms on YouTube in terms of just giving you picks, which I don't think really matter too much, especially in MLB DFS where it's not as constant on a night in and night out basis. Welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, and it might be because this is a brand new sport, first time covering MLB DFS in terms of making content for it, have played it before, which you might be able to tell very soon. But here, welcome to the channel. Go Yanks. I don't know if you're a Yanks fan. We got the little shish kebab bat here. Almost broke the laptop. We got the little Babe Ruth. It is 1 a.m. in the morning on the East Coast. I'm shooting this video because I'm that excited. I cannot sleep. I just watched a very good basketball game. I do NFL and as well as NBA content as well. So you can catch that as well when the NFL comes around. NBA I will be doing. So just a quick announcement. I'll be doing as many MLB videos as I can. I'm going to be trying to get them out, especially early in the season, as much as I can. The NBA overlapping with the MLB is going to be a lot of work, but we'll work through it. You guys are here for some MLB content. Before we hop into that, just want to shout out a couple of announcements because there is a ton of new people here. So let me just type these in. The first one is just the Discord. If you're not familiar with Discord, if you're new here, it's just where we have a bunch of people texting about different things. The MLB chat has been just blowing up as of late because the MLB is back. NBA gets constant chatter every single day. It's the main sport right now, and as well as NHL. Golf gets it closer to the weekends, all that. And if you want what I'm about to show you, the target offense sheet, as well as some other projections for the MLB, for the NBA. Those are all up and they are already on Patreon. You can go over there and you can support me if you would like. But that is it. Let's hop into this. So, like I said, this is the first video for MLB DFS, and I think it's going to give you guys a lot of value in terms of everything that's on this sheet and me breaking it down. Whether you're a first-time player or whether you're someone who does their own research, this will reduce your research time. This will educate you, and I'm going to hopefully be doing that throughout videos coming. So MLB DFS, and I'll get into this chart over my shoulder right now that I'm looking at, but over my shoulder. I'll get into that in just a second. But MLB DFS, damn, it's late, in my mind, is pretty much tournament-based only. I play cash a lot in NFL. I play cash primarily with single-entry tournaments is my main DFS philosophy. And I think you could still do that in MLB, but I don't think you could do it as optimally as the other sports, and I think your chances of winning a tournament are way more optimal and way more likely if you're playing optimal in MLB rather than the other games. So what I mean by that is stacking, and if you know anything about MLB DFS, you know that stacking is the key to winning. And just hear me out. Last year, or in the years past, it's still estimated that around 40% to 45% of tournament entries are not stacking at all. They're just throwing a bunch of random players together and hoping that all their players hit home runs that night, and we all know that that's not going to happen. The best way is to correlate outcomes and positive outcomes together, and the best way to do that is get the games that have those highest totals, where the 2, 3, 4, 6, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be, hitters on that team play extremely well, and they combine and they all do very well, and they score 12 runs in that game. And you want the top of the order because there's more at-bats. It's as simple as that. You want to stack, and when 40 to 45% of the field is not doing that each night and they're not playing optimally, that is a huge edge. You look in the NBA, if you're familiar with it, it's very hard to get an edge. One way you do that is injury news. If somebody doesn't get on a play late enough or they don't take a guy out of their lineup, maybe you get a 3 to 5% edge that night. We're talking a 40% edge in MLB DFS. Now, the 50 to 60% of people that are stacking lineups are very good at it, but I'd much rather have an opportunity to go up against 60% of the field that's playing optimally than 95% in NBA or whatever it might be in the NFL, around 80 to 75%. So MLB, I think, is easier to win in terms of the overall field is not playing as optimally. But when you break it down on a lineup-by-lineup basis, if you're not playing a max entry or anything like that, you have to get very creative, and you have to take a lot of stands. And we'll talk about that. Let me just mute that. Somebody talking in the Discord. And we'll talk about that throughout these episodes. But for today, we're just going to break down this video itself, today's slate itself. What you're looking at in front of you, I do it for the NBA. You might be familiar with it. I will be doing it for the NFL. It's called a target offense sheet. It is a quick look, and in my opinion, a very good look. Things that I will be adding, I already know too. I want to add ground ball rates. I want to add fastball rates for the pitchers because I think those are two things that are also very beneficial to look at. If you're somebody who thinks that you're going to look at a player's ERA for pitchers, and then you're going to look at a batter's batting average and hits, and you think that you're going to be playing good at an MLB DFS. One, you're not. If you're not stacking, you don't know what that means. I should explain it. Stacking just pretty much means getting multiple players from that same team in your lineup. The best and most optimal ways that people do it are 5 and 3. You get 5 players from one lineup, 3 from the other. Hope those lineups go off. If they do, you take home all the money. That's the idea. You can do 4 and 4, and then you have one off guy, just one random player who's hopefully not so random, but you actually believe that he has some sort of value that night. Lots of different ways to play it. The way that I will be approaching this is playing around with stacks. I will probably be looking into a 4-4, 4-3-1, things like that. And then going for lower value pitchers because a lot of people will try and squeeze in higher value pitchers, especially the people not stacking, and then that's just a cash approach. You won't win in tournaments. So what you're looking at here, target offense sheet, it is very much centered around pitching. I fully believe if I want to win a game or win a tournament by stacking, I need to attack the pitcher who I think my lineup has the best edge against, whether it be because of the ballpark, whether it be because of those pitchers' numbers. I don't look too much into BVP, batter versus pitcher, because I'm mainly looking into the pitcher side of it. I'll look at the batting and the hitting a little bit after, but not nearly as in depth as I will look at the pitching, because I think that's where you get your biggest edge. At the end of the day, I want to play at least 4 players from one team, if not 5, and then run it back with another 3-man stack. If I want to do that, I can't care too much about the batter versus pitcher matchups because it's very likely that multiple players on that team won't be doing as good as some other players against other pitchers in the league. I don't care. I want the best correlation possible. If I want to win a tournament, if you're playing cash, it's a totally different thing. Go get your value top of the order guys, get your stud pitchers, and try and win that way and grind it out. But if you want to win a tournament and you're stacking, I think that batter versus position and how hard a hitter hits the ball, it becomes a lot less important compared to where you can get an edge on a specific pitcher and then where you can find your value pitchers. So that's what this chart's all about. It's all about trying to help you guys win a tournament. And it's all about reducing your research time. You might go to 5 different websites to look at these stats. They might be all over the place. I put it into one specific area, the target offense sheet that you're looking at. So you can see right here, this is the whole 14-game main slate. You could break it down to whatever slate you guys want. It's in order of the times. The 14-game main slate, 28 teams, almost the entire league is playing, right? The Boston game, I'm pretty sure the entire league is playing. Maybe one team's not. The Boston game is not on this slate. It's not on the 14-game main slate, so I'm sorry if it's on another one. It's just not on here. It would have been the last game on here. So what you're looking at, we could start off going through it, is matchups. So you're going to get the team, you're going to get the probable pitcher for that team, and then the fantasy points per game. So in terms of fantasy points per game, in terms of every single stat you see on here, it's based on 2018 stats. So for team-specific stats, it's going to be a little bit skewed because obviously players are still not on the same teams. We have guys signing insane contracts and leaving teams. We have guys like Mike Trout signing insane contracts and staying on teams. Pitchers are changing teams. Bullpens are turning over. The lineup is switching. So lots of things will switch, but look, what else am I supposed to do? It's the first day of the season. Do you want me to guess at what these players are going to do? I'd rather use data that we have from last year. And for the most part, since I factor in the weather, since I factor in the ballparks, the top of the order, the batting order, things like that, it should balance out. Or most likely will for the most part, especially since you're using it throughout each entire game. So fantasy points per game, that was just for the pitchers over last year. I think it's something nice to reference, especially for baseball, which is a little bit harder to project. I do have projections. Again, those are over on Patreon. And then you have the opponent and the opponent's fantasy points per game. The opponent's fantasy points per game is how the entire team was hitting. So any number above 1 means that they were an above average hitting team. So you can see the second team on there, the New York Yankees. We know that they're a pretty good hitting team, power hitting team. Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, Gary Sanchez, go Yanks. We have 1.169. So that's pretty good. It's over 1 by a good amount. You can see that Baltimore is not as great. So this is just a nice little indicator and look at how teams are actually hitting. Once I have a few weeks or maybe up to a month I would feel a little bit better about of data from this year, I'll switch those rates. Vegas is huge, especially if you're going to be playing tournaments. You want to stack games that have higher totals. Now, don't think that you can just stack the highest total games, play the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hitters, and you're going to win all the money because everybody's doing that. Ownership's a huge thing for MLB DFS. It's very big. Awesemo is great. That site is great at ownership. If you watch their live shows, you will actually get to see sneak peeks at their ownership without paying for it. So go ahead and try and do that. Knowing the stacks that are going under-owned, and you can kind of get a feel for it based on where all the media is that day, all the articles you're reading. You better believe that hundreds and thousands of other people are reading those articles, if not tens of thousands, and they're also watching the live streams on YouTube. They're watching this video. So make sure you're trying to find an edge and not just play the highest owned stack, because even if the highest owned stack does good, every single person has it. So then you have to then not only pick the right stack that night, but pick both of the right pitchers and pick the other right stack if you're playing a tournament. For cash games, target the value type plays at the top of the order. Never play a guy who's batting 8th or 9th. You should never really play a guy who's batting 7th. Look, I know if he's like $2,000 or somewhere in that range, it's attractive, but he's going to bat at most 3 times in most games, and he's at the bottom of the order for a reason. Look, you might catch a home run once in a while from a 7, 8, 9 hitter, especially in a better lineup like New York, but it's just not going to happen frequently enough to come anywhere near profiting. So focus on the top of the order value for cash games, head-to-heads, 50-50s. For tournaments, top of the order as well, 2, 3, and especially the 6-hitter. The 6-hitter seems to be usually less owned, cheaper, but still has the same amount of upside and gets the same amount or similar at bats. But focus on those 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hitters, even the 1-hitter. Top of the order pretty much. Don't go below 6. Try not to go below 5. Try to get the 2-hitter in your lineup more than you get the 1-hitter in your lineup. There's just more pop in that bat. So yeah, that's what you're looking for tournaments, and Vegas is a big indicator. So you can see the game totals here is just how many runs are scored in the game. That goes all the way down, and this is based on matchup, so they're right next to each other, who's playing each other. And then you can see I have it color-coded. The darker means the more runs in the game. Those are spots that are attractive that Vegas is predicting. Vegas factors a lot of things in, so they're already factoring some of the stats that I'm factoring in, and even more, right? So they'll factor in weather. These lines will change throughout the day. I will change them throughout the day. So Vegas is pretty good at all this stuff. Next thing up is ballpark, and if you're not familiar with MLB DFS, you might know from other DFS sports that Vegas is a big deal. Obviously, your opponent is a big deal, like we covered already, but the baseball field is the only sport where a field actually matters, and in MLB DFS, this is absolutely huge. If you play, you know Coors Field gets a lot of hype. You know there's some other fields that get a lot of hype in terms of being very hitter-friendly. Coors Field because of just where it sits up in the Rocky Mountains, mile high. The ball just carries out of the ballpark a lot easier. Same thing with some other stadiums, the way they're built. Yankee Stadium, the ball goes out in right field a lot easier because it's just a short porch. It's just a hitter-friendly park, and we can factor that into projections. We can factor that into trying to build our lineups. So anything over 1 means it's a more hitter-friendly park than average. If it's below 1, it means it's less than average in terms of being hitter-friendly. It's more pitcher-friendly. So in anything under this effect column that is less than 1, you should be just targeting and thinking, okay, where can I find some value pitchers in this spot? Where are the better pay-up options if I'm playing cash? Anything that's over 1 says that, okay, the hitters are in a better situation in this spot. So you go to that team New York Yankees. They have a good spot at home. Who are they facing? A pitcher in Andrew Kachner, who only got 7 fantasy points per game last year. Absolutely brutal. A very bad ace, I would say. So the Yankees are clearly in a great spot. Next up, weather. So weather, again, one of the only sports that it really factors in. There's a lot of things that matter. If a game gets rained out, you don't get those fantasy points. You're screwed. You're left with some goose eggs. So there's a lot of risk. Although if you're like a contrarian player and you're good with the weather, and at this point a lot of people are, you should be following Kevin Roth from Roto Grinders on Twitter. He's up to it every single second, looking at radars. People will come off of some stacks in games that might get rained out or seem like there's going to be rain because they'll worry and they don't want to take that risk, even though there might not be a risk there. That's an edge for you guys and girls to take advantage of. So in terms of weather, I have everything here. For the most part, at the beginning of the season, and especially towards the end of the season, you're going to get a little bit chillier of weather. The summer hasn't officially come into full yet, or come just nice weather yet, right? So we're still dealing with some chilly weather. Chilly weather is just worse for hitters. The ball won't carry as far. If it is freezing out, if the game's in 30-degree temperature, the ball's not going to carry as far as if it's 70 degrees in the summer. You're going to get some fly balls that aren't home runs. Those things are minor factors, but they actually will add up over the course of the season. In terms of weather, though, for all these games, it's pretty much good. There's some slight concern in the Oakland and Los Angeles game, which there's rarely any rain out there. So that is very, very rare to see it, especially at the first game of the year. So there's a slight concern there. There's supposed to be some showers, but they're supposed to drift off. And then there's actually some serious concern with the Kansas City and White Sox game, there's supposed to be rain to start, a possible delay, and then it's supposed to go on throughout. So a game that has an 8.5 total, pretty decent. The Chiefs, or not the Chiefs, I'm thinking football, but the Kansas City Royals have a 5-run spread, which is usually when you're approaching 5 or anything above 5 is a nice spot to target in terms of game stacking, team stacking, batters. But that serious concern is definitely scary. It's one of the later games in the slate, also scary. But if you do wait and you play guys in that game and the rain doesn't factor into it too much, you're in a position where, yeah, you can actually now set yourself up to have a very low-owned stack that can make some money on night one. So those are some of the things that you have to take advantage of. But keep in mind, 40% of the field is not even going to attempt to stack. If this is your first time here and you don't know what stacking is, look a little bit more into it. I could explain it in future videos. If you're still watching right now to this point, I should mention, hit the like button, hit me with a subscribe if you're new here. I appreciate it. I'm going to be doing these videos as much as possible. This one's kind of like a walkthrough. Look, it's the first MLB video of the season. I'm going to talk about a lot of things, to cover a lot of things, but then we'll get it a little bit more condensed. I'll have one or two other slides to kind of just point to specific stacks for that day, but I just want to get this video out as soon as possible because I'm super excited and I couldn't sleep because MLB's tomorrow and there's a great basketball game on. So that's what we're talking about so far. So what we have factored in right now is the matchups. They're nice to look at. Vegas isn't huge and important. Ballpark is big and important, should be factored into projections. Weather should be factored into projections to an extent. And now you're getting into some abbreviated pitching or probable pitcher stats. So I have a whole stats database with the projections. Those are also on Patreon. They come with it. On another page down here, you could see, maybe you could see it for pitchers and hitters, it's separate, each single one. So I have a hitters stats database with the hitters projections, same exact things for pitchers, things of that nature. I should also add maybe pitch weight to this sheet. That's something that I want to just kind of keep on the hitters projections, but I could add pitch weight onto here. And you guys can see how that kind of factors in. Is it a below or pretty much pitch weight means does that pitcher, are they a below average or above average in terms of the amount of runs they've given up compared to the team that they're playing today? So not just the league average, but the team that they're actually playing today is also factored in. So you can see with these probable pitcher stats, I have it color coordinated. It's very nice. It depends on the stat though. It is color coordinated by column. So the whole chart is not color coordinated. Look at it individually by column. So you can see strikeouts through 9 innings. Look, if a pitcher is pitching very bad and they still get you 10 strikeouts, or you have a Max Scherzer here getting 12 strikeouts, it's very good. It looks good. Now, I know people are here for this video to kind of just see what picks should I make. Look, if you've watched me at all, you know I don't give out picks. You know that in MLB DFS, it's almost impossible to give out picks. I can tell you favorable spots. I can show you where stacks are. You probably already know that. It's up to you to make those bold calls that you feel uncomfortable with to kind of be contrarian elsewhere. But you can see right here, I mean, the Yankees are just set up perfectly in this game. They're going to be... Excuse me. The Yankees are set up perfectly in this game. You can see, and I have to just tweak this a little bit. I have all the ballparks in here in terms of where that specific team plays, but I'll get the ballpark in here in terms of what it is on that night specifically. So I just have all the ballparks based on which team the starting pitcher plays for, but I have to change it based on which team is the home team, and then it'll double count. So whichever team is first is going to just double count. So don't factor too much into that. I'll have a new one up on Twitter tomorrow, probably tomorrow morning. So what you're looking at here is you have pitchers with 12 and 11 strikeouts. That's great for the pitcher. It's a lot worse for the offense. You have a guy like we've already joked about him and kind of picked on him, Andrew Cashner. Look, only 5 strikeouts. He is last in the league, at least, or last on this slate in terms of his strikeouts through 9 last year. This Yankees team, a team that can take advantage of that, right? Means that he's just not getting you out. He's giving you more pitches. People are battling off his pitches. And if you give more pitches to a team that is above average in terms of fantasy points scored as a whole on their team, it's dangerous. Not only is he bad as that, you'll look across the entire board, he is bad at literally everything. Batted balls in play, you have walks through 9. He's giving up almost 4 walks through 9 innings. That's huge in terms of getting runners on base, in terms of generating runs. Ks to walk ratio is very low. It's actually dreadfully low at 1.52. That's really bad. You have FIP, which is huge. It just kind of factors in what the pitcher's actually doing on their own, how their performance is being factored in to the team. So it kind of just draws out other things. Same goes for whip. You want those to be as low as possible. We could look into exactly what those means maybe on future videos. Home runs through 9 is pretty obvious. These are all stats that are big. K percentage and walk percentage already kind of factored in, but it's nice to look at it as a percentage. So these are all stats that you guys can just look at. I have screenshots on Twitter. I have this sheet itself on Excel that you guys can kind of download and use. It's on Patreon. There's a link down below. It'll say probably MLB projections or something like that. You can get the projections. You can get this, whatever you want. It's like 30 cents a day it comes out to. So you just go check it out. It helps me. I put a lot of work into this every night and every morning. So definitely check it out if you'd like. The hitters page, and there's a lot more to come. So this is just what projections are going to look like, just to quickly show you. It's going to be very similar, but there's a ton more to come. The projections right here, you could look at these numbers, you could try and take them and run with them. They're not set in stone. I have to adjust a lot of things in here. You can see it's not even completely filled out. That's something that I'll be doing early in the morning. But for the most part, if you do NBA is very projectable. 50% of the game is projectable, if not more, because every single night you could pretty much bank on, in fantasy points, LeBron not getting you below 30 points. Like, that's a very low floor for a guy like LeBron James. Whereas Mike Trout, and you've probably heard this so many times from other people, if you follow the sport, can get you 0 a lot of the nights. His average might be 10 fantasy points, but he's going to get you 0 a lot of the nights. Whereas in the NBA, if somebody's average is 35 fantasy points, they're probably very rarely getting you in the low 20s. They're getting you in the 30 to 40 range often. So just the standard deviation is very different. So that's why in terms of projecting the sport, it's not the greatest. It's good to look at in terms of for cash, trying to find the value, and tournaments, trying to find the value. But it is not as projectable. I think it's still great to look at, including stats databases, where this database right here is going to be probably doubled. I want to get as many stats in here. Advanced stats, batting average doesn't matter at all, in my opinion. Your total amount of hits doesn't matter at all. We're looking at WOBA, we're looking at ISO, we're looking at Ks through per plate appearance, walks per plate appearance, stolen bases are big bumps, all those types of things. I do believe that slugging percentage is decent to look at. On-base percentage is a little bit better to look at, in my opinion. And then you obviously have ISO, WOBA, like we talked about. So these are all things, and again, this is the first video of the year for the MLB, so trying to give you guys a refresher of what you're going to be seeing, especially if you're new here. But the main things. So here's the thing. What will you be playing in the MLB DFS? And I know that you guys might want more specific to this slate stuff, but I think just looking at this thing right over my shoulder, you can get it on Twitter. I'll post it in the Discord as well for today and probably the first week. Just looking at this and digesting it is going to help you more than me reading it off for you. Now, like I said, in future videos, I will break it down to having the 4 decent stacks, or the stacks that are in good situations today, potential leverage or pivot spots, if there's any injuries that we have to talk about, but none of that's really important right now. You could dive much deeper into it than just this. You could look at things such as, is a player going to play in the bottom of the ninth because their ace is on the mound? Will they lose an extra at-bat because of that? Well, then maybe I'll stay away from them in terms of game stacking that game over another game that might be a little bit closer, or they don't have their ace on the mound. Now, the first game of the year, lots of teams are going to have their ace on the mound, so a lot of that balances out. Also, it's early in the season, so we don't have any data. Like I said, we're using last year's data, so everybody's just kind of in the same situation of the first few weeks of the MLB are very challenging, and it's the people that pick it up like that and can kind of pick up the trends and know where players are, or how players are playing and how pitchers are doing in terms of the data, and getting on it early to get an edge. So early in the year, kind of a crapshoot, still fun to play, still has a lot of upside, especially if you're looking at things like this. I don't know if you've ever had this opportunity to look at data like this. I definitely have it, so I figured I want to make it. I want to share it with people. You guys give me your attention in return, and it's a win-win for everybody. So hit me with a thumbs up if you're still here. I appreciate it. I know I'm kind of rambling, but I just want to get this all out there and give you an idea. So let me just give you the framework for MLB DFS, at least how I'm going to approach it. I'll be completely honest with you. Early in the season, it's hard to have a dead set strategy. You can work through Fantasy Cruncher. It's a tool. You can try to look at games from last year and you can play them back, and you can see how you could have had the best settings to get that same lineup or a lineup similar to it. And then you could figure out and use that for this year. I think that that's pretty good. I also think that there's a lot of turnover in the sport, and players change on a year in and year out basis. People are regressing positively or negatively. So it could be a little bit tricky, but I think it's better than doing nothing, obviously. So the way that I'm going to approach it, I'm going to be playing GPPs, probably single entry a little bit, because I'm not going to be entering 150 lineups like other people and being able to have 10% exposure to every single stack. I just can't. I don't have the money. I'm in college. I'm broke. I don't have a ton of money in DFS. I'm not a pro. I like the sport. I look a little more into it than most people, but I'm not the greatest. So I'm going to be putting in single entry lineups. Probably not playing any cash early on, at least. And I'm going to stack teams. I'm going to look at these high totals. That's where I will start. And you can see, I mean, 14 teams on the big main slate. There's going to be like 6 or 7 teams you should pick from. And when there's a lot of teams, that's even better because ownership is naturally spread out. You have 14 games on the slate. It's going to be hard for one stack to get super highly owned, right? So try and find the stacks that are a little bit lower owned. Don't try to go to the stacks that are 1% owned. They're 1% owned because they probably stink. How do you know ownership? You kind of just judge on it. You might be able to pick some stuff up from Awesimo's live streams, but you kind of just have to judge it. Maybe you could find some free sites. They probably don't have great ownership. You could try Draft Dashboard. I have a link down below. It's 30 days for $1. They have ownership projections as well. So yeah, just look for the stacks that have high totals. It's very simple. It's very straightforward. That's very high level. That's very basic. There's a lot more that goes into it, but that's a very good start. Look for the ballparks that are effective. Look, if you're just going to stack Coors Field, I don't know if the game's in Coors Field, but if you're going to be stacking Coors Field and thinking that you have any competition or any leverage on the competition, you don't. You're going to have to do other things to make that lineup unique. Your other stack is going to have to be interesting, whether that's a 3-man stack, a 4-man stack, and you're also probably going to have to get a nice little one-off and value out of your pitchers. We haven't talked a lot about getting value from your pitchers, but I do like the idea of paying up for your stacks and finding value pitchers on the slate. You automatically become a little bit different in terms of paying down for pitching, which not a lot of people, at least people that use optimizers, feel comfortable doing. I might be using a lot of words that don't make much sense. If I am, drop a comment. I'll answer every single comment. I'm excited for baseball. I want everybody to be ready and set to go. So yeah, the process is find the high total games, find the ones that are in good environments, meaning that these stats right here in terms of the pitcher, last year in terms of what they gave up in fantasy points. Look, I don't like looking at last year, but you have a big sample, 150 plus games for hitters and pitchers. They have 40 starts or whatever it might be. You have a nice sample. So using these numbers right here, pairing them with what we have over here, looking into some other research tools that you guys like and girls like, I think it's a good start. Again, if you're playing tournaments, you have to be stacking. I can't make it any more clear. If you have questions about stacking, hit me up on Twitter. My link somewhere should be around here. It probably says right now NBA projections above my head. I just realized that. That's got to get changed to MLB. So, my bad. But yeah, I hope that this helps. Look, again, I'll make it more concise moving forward. I just wanted to show you what we had here. Again, I'm very excited. The other videos, the more videos, give me just recommendations on what you want to see in videos. I'm not going to give you picks because there's no value in that. There's literally less value in that than any other sport. Every single night, there's going to be guys going 0 for 4 that are the highest price guys on the slate. I can't give you picks because there's no value for you there. What I can do is try and teach you guys, try and show you guys, try and give you guys the information, and just make these videos as concise as possible moving forward with stacks, all that good stuff. The MLB is back. It's like 2 a.m. in the morning by the time this video gets up. It is currently 1:15 in the morning. I'm going to go to bed. Well, I'm going to end this. I'm going to upload the video. Then I'm going to go to bed. So if you're watching this at some point right after it goes up or just any point, please, please, please comment. Please subscribe. Hit me with a like button. Let me know what you think of these videos. Again, this is the first MLB one. I'm trying to be a little bit quiet while my family sleeps. You can break down into this data if you want on Twitter, in the Discord. Hop in there. Hop over to Patreon right here. If you do want to get access to NBA projections, those are actually very good. I use them every single night. And I update them multiple times a day for injury news. Or if you want to get this target sheet that you're looking at right now as an Excel document, you can get this on here as well on Patreon. And you could also go and you can get the projections on Patreon for the MLB. Projections for MLB, not as important as the NBA by far. Not as important maybe as the NFL even, but they're still good to have, I would say, especially if you're paying 30 cents a day or whatever it might come out to for them. But that's totally your call. My name's Sal. You guys already know that. Peace out. Enjoy opening day. It's a great, great day. Peace.